Welcome to part 22 of the 2018 NFL Draft in Review. Today we will be taking a look at the 2018 Detroit Lions draft class, and I had pretty high expectancy for this class, and it's fizzled out a little bit, but it's still a pretty good class overall in my opinion. And so we will get started with the 20th selection, center Frank Ragnow. And Ragnow's been one of the best centers in the league since he was drafted. He has started every single game that he has played in, though he hasn't started all games possible in his career due to a couple of injuries here and there. But generally speaking, when he's on the field, the Lions absolutely have their longtime anchor at the center of the offensive line. So we'll now go over here and take a little bit of a look. Obviously, him right in the center.
Definitely check it out. So, with all of that being said, let's go ahead and dive in to a little bit of Frank Ragnow film. Now, I wanted to look in division with this because the NFC North has just an absolute gauntlet of defensive linemen. I mean, every week you're going to be going up against some stud. The Bears with Akeem Hicks and obviously Khalil Mack and their front seven is no joke. And then you got the Packers who, Kenny Clark, and that's a fierce defensive line. And the Vikings are, right there with them. I mean, three very, very good defensive lines that he has to play 2 times a year. So when we look in division, we see some very quality talent, which is where I gathered a lot of this film from. So on this first clip right here, all that we're going to see is a really simple counter from the Detroit Lions, but the block that I want to focus on is this double team right here between guard and center. Now, a big part of double teams, especially when you're a center, you're this post-up guy, is giving your guard or your helper someone something to hit, right? And a lot of times I think with double teams, especially at, lower level football, is that we have this post-up guy and he takes up almost too much of that block and he doesn't leave a lot for his guard to hit on, right? Now, right here, Frank Ragnow does a phenomenal job posting up on this. This doesn't need to be a crushing block from Frank Ragnow. What we need to do is post this dude up, not lose into the backfield, and give our guard something to hit, which is exactly what happens here. And then we see, obviously, off of this, we create a beautiful crease right here in this B gap, which Adrian Peterson is able to cut up for a decent amount of yardage. Little things like that are what Frank Ragnow does, and does very, very well. I mean, this dude, when we talk about football players who can help an offensive line, Frank Ragnow, I believe, makes everybody else around him better, which is why he got this extension. Now, the other thing that Frank Ragnow does, and I have multiple clips of this, and something that honestly is incredible to me, is this dude just stops nose tackles and defensive linemen when they're pass rushing. And so I brought this thing in from the wide angle first, just because it really is crazy, right? Here's Frank Ragnow right here. We have a defensive lineman, an NFL caliber defensive lineman coming in hot, full speed. We make contact and we shut this thing down 3 yards into the backfield. That's insane for him to do. I mean, his technique on this stuff is perfect. We're locked in, both hands underneath. No need to re-rack. Our hands aren't going by. We get our eyes below his, sink our butt. I mean, this is a gorgeous job with pass protection, and he does this time and time again. Right here, working on Akeem. I mean, this is Akeem Hicks. Akeem Hicks is a top defensive lineman in the NFL, and we're working out to our right side. He does the exact same thing. Boom, we're locked in, right? That means we have no pressure coming up from the middle of the pocket, which is really nice for a guy like Stafford or for a guy like Jared Goff. We don't have to worry about anything internally breaking up field, right? I mean, we lock this thing down. Akeem Hicks starts to make that move to the right. So basically, we just take him where he wants to go. Quarterback's going to make us right in this situation in the pocket. We're going to see Akeem Hicks work right to the right of the screen. He wants to work that way. Fine. We just got to keep on him. Hands are inside, so we're not getting called for holding. It's the little things like that Frank Ragnow does that makes him such an excellent center. And like I said, we see this time and time again. This clip is really phenomenal, to be honest with you. So with this clip right here, the Bears are bringing pressure from the right side of the screen, right from the boundary side. The Lions clearly, they pointed out to Mike to be on the left side of the field here, which is why Frank Ragnow looks left to begin with. So once we see that guys are bailing, right, this is a high IQ football play. This is awesome, right? As we see dudes are bailing, right, boom, we're bailing here and we're bailing here. Okay, now we know, okay, we got nothing coming. If something leaves out here, something's coming from the other side. He looks back inside, we lock up with this defensive lineman, and once again, we lock up and we're not losing ground on this afterwards. We lock up, boom, right here, we anchor our feet. I mean, this dude's not going anywhere.
And this pretty much does summarize very well what I see when I very rarely get to watch the Detroit Lions play football games. Usually the problem in this offensive line. Usually any pressure coming through is coming off the edges. You know, I very, very rarely see anything really coming through the guards and center of this offensive line. So, yeah, Frank Ragnow absolutely deserved the contract he got, and he'll be in Detroit. Presumably up until Detroit, he either retires or Detroit can't justify paying him one more year before he retires. So... So we'll move on to the next selection. This was pick 43, running back Kerryon Johnson. And Kerryon Johnson's a very strange running back for me in that I liked him coming out of college. He put up not a great rookie year, but it implied that he could do more. And then he just collapsed. And I really have no idea what happened here. Yeah, it's like 641 yards, 3 touchdowns, another touchdown in receiving his first year. You know, it's about 800 some odd overall yards from scrimmage. It looked like he could effectively have solved the Lions' running back problems, and instead, now he's a free agent in the league. DeAndre Swift is now the Lions running back, and even he looks like he might have a little trouble solving that problem that Detroit has had since Barry Sanders long term. So, we'll still take a bit of a look at the highlights and just be a little baffled that this guy didn't take off.
Inside handoff goes to Kerryon Johnson, and that is a first down. They picked him in the second round. Again, Detroit looking for a
solid power run
for
there.
over a decade. So for a run here. And almost to the 45-yard line.
Did that do it?
It goes, well, that's going to put him at 101 yards. So unless he loses a couple of yards on subsequent runs, it's going to be the first. It's almost like the crowd senses it, too. They know it. They know it's been 4.5 years since they had a guy rush for 100 yards, and the rookie does it.
And it's going to be Kerryon Johnson's name that is going to break.
Kerryon Johnson in the game in the backfield. Agnew, who ran it earlier, they give it to Johnson. Good room. Kerryon Johnson running hard into the end zone. Touchdown. 5. Kerryon Johnson breaks it. Kerryon Johnson in a foot race.
Yeah, so this is why I liked coming out of college. He had the ability, and it just... What are these stranger fizzle outs to me?
Johnson on the other side. Johnson will get the first down and running into Kiko Alonso and still maintains his...
Kiko Alonso, not easy to get a stiff arm.
Kerryon Johnson to the end zone. Touchdown, Lions.
In the end zone when they get down here. See if they can capitalize on this great drive.
And the Panthers have struggled defensively in the red zone. This is Johnson. He's in. Touchdown. And they hand it to Johnson up and over the top and into the end.
So, overall, he had such a honestly good mix of power and speed, and it just... I don't know what happened here. It just confuses me that he fell off so hard, so quickly. But it's just unfortunate that that's how it played out, and really sucks to see that. As I've said numerous times in this series, it always sucks to see a player that had such potential just fade off. But so, next up at the 82nd selection, the Lions picked up safety Tracy Walker. And Walker, well, he did miss much of last season with an Achilles tear, is pretty much their starting strong safety, and we see the numbers back it up pretty strongly. Solid tackle production, even in a season where he only started about half the games in 2020. Doesn't quite get the interceptions that you would think a guy getting usually 4 or more pass deflections would pull, but that's just how that goes sometimes. Can be used on quarterback blitzes, and overall just a very nice player for the Lions to have, and we'll go to his 2021 highlights, because obviously there wasn't much of him to see last year due to the injury 3 games into the season. So, ooh. Yeah, that running back got his bell rung right there. Yeah, that's one you have got to pick off. Same thing there. Good job making the receiver work for it. Not the best thrown ball, though. Another good job making the receiver work for it. It's only the Ravens, but still. And getting your hand up just in time to make sure that doesn't turn into something. Arguably an interceptable pass. Solid vision getting to the ball right there. It's a detail that I do very much like about the about any safety. If you can identify a play and get there before anything really happens, then that is a good talent to have. It's often surprising when some of these later round safeties don't pan out despite having that ability. I don't necessarily agree with the concept of defensive back blitzes, but if it works, you look like a genius. If your defense gets burned because that guy wasn't back there, you look like a dumbass. But yeah, this is a very good player for the Lions to have. He tends to make receivers work for it. Thus, a lot of the pass deflections, though, I would say that he could stand to work on catching some of those, because some of those absolutely should have been interceptions. And me personally, I remember a day when the safety was one of the higher positions of picking off a pass like that. So I'd hope he works on that. But other than that, though, he's obviously a starting player for the Lions. They should keep him around as long as he is able to produce at a high level. And that makes it the second solid selection out of the first 3 picks. But the last 3 kind of fall off. You have defensive end Deshaun Hand, and he's still in the league, but he's very, very well settled into a backup role. Really almost a bench warmer role at this point, as he doesn't see the field very much. Hasn't since he was a rookie. It's very odd to me because he had some potential. The Lions at least seemed to want to let him play his first year, but apparently what they saw in that first season was enough to say, okay, we don't have anything here, let's move on. So, like I said, he's still around, but you're not going to see him playing anymore. Next up, we had offensive tackle Tyrell Crosby, and this one surprised me that he didn't turn into something more, because when I first saw him when I was looking through things in 2018, this looked like one of those, how did he fall so far in the draft? And it never really turned into much of anything. He was kind of looking like he was progressing as a potential starter, then they just let him go, and he hasn't been picked up since. I wouldn't say his career is over, but it definitely seems to have hit a pretty significant roadblock. So I'm just kind of surprised, because like I said, I saw this as a potential major steal. And their final selection was fullback Nick Bawden. And the long and short of this was just the Lions were trying to copy the Patriots. You know, they made 2 trades with us that season. Their head coach was Matt Patricia. They drafted a fullback of all positions in a league that really doesn't use fullbacks anymore. But look at who one of the only other teams to seriously use fullbacks at the time was the Patriots. This was just part of the Lions' failed attempt to mimic another team. And it didn't really go anywhere. He's never really been an offensive contributor. He's hung around in the league, but generally speaking, he's been on and off injured reserve and practice squads, so I just, no. Bad selection. So, I originally called this an A- because I figured Ragnow, Johnson, and Crosby would be very good. It turned into Ragnow and Walker, with Johnson being a kind of weird flash in the pan, so I'd bring it down to probably a B+, or a B. It's still a pretty good class in what it gave the Lions in terms of value, but you still do just have those two potentially very good selections that just kind of withered away. So, that'll do it for today. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter, and I will... Oh, this is the NFL draft. My mistake. And I will be seeing you tomorrow for the 2018 Green Bay Packers draft class. So, I will see you then.